So, humanity, I got a couple more questions for you. If you want to go spacefaring, right? Here are just some things that I gotta ask you, and the longer this goes on, the more questions that you actually have to think about when you are applying the idea that we could become spacefaring. So, just hear me out here. All right. So the first thing that we have to figure out is being able to create technology that could harvest planets and celestial bodies. For some reason, we're trying to harvest our moon, and I'm just going to say this right now. Harvesting the celestial body that literally dictates our currents is probably not the greatest idea. We shouldn't be changing the or the density, not destiny, the density of the celestial body that dictates the very water currents on our planet. Not a good plan. Secondly, with that planet harvesting technology, we got to figure out how to make a reliable resource track. When we could figure out how to make a reliable resource track and get the elements and the minerals and the materials and all the elements that we need, all right, back to our planet, we could eventually create the technology to terraform. Yay! So once we have that, we will be able to have technology that could go to other planets, be able to survey those planets, harvest those planets, and also be able to send resources back. And now we are able to terraform as well. So we can now begin to do the same thing with hospitable planets. Planets that seem most hospitable for humanity. You know, be able to land our planet harvesters down, start up some mines to get resources back to our planet, and then be able to start, setting up, facilities there that will eventually have humans stay there long term, and that will eventually be able to have food go there and actually terraform the planet to be able to harbor life, so that we could plant trees and have different species be able to live there, right? So that we could have permanent settlement there, right? And then other things, as it goes on, is figuring out how to settle in the instance of let's play some theoretics here. Let's play some theoretics. All right. So let's say we colonize Mars, right? Let's just say, right? And it's thousands of years. All right. And there is an asteroid. All right. And Earth calls dibs on that asteroid. Right? And it's a big asteroid, right? It's a mile in size. It's a big boy. It's a fat asteroid, right? But the thing is that asteroid aims for Mars. So now Mars has to take defensive measures and split that asteroid up. And it then falls into Mars's atmosphere. So the question is, right, with our current understanding of what we deem to be ours, right, if it lands in Mars's atmosphere, does that mean that it's theirs, even though Earth called dibs on it? Are you ready to even have discussions like this? Because I'm going to tell you this right now, if you are not ready to have these kinds of discussions, then maybe you should be shooting down the delusional billionaires that keep trying to bring up the idea that we could be spacefaring the next 30 years. Alright? How would you go about that? How do you go about the actual ownership of, celestial bodies and like, just smaller asteroids and comets and whatnot. Like, do you understand like the talks that you have to have, the discussions that you have to have when literally the galaxy is now our market? Like, we have to actually put evaluations on these things. We actually have to evaluate planets. What are the resources on a planet worth to us? Like, and not only that, but we have to figure out, like, mate, like, we can barely even figure out how to treat people that look differently than us. In a couple thousand years, when we are colonizing other planets, who's to say that other planets won't be like, yeah, those Earthlings seem like fucking dickheads. Hey, yo, can we bombard them bastards? And like, now we have interplanetary war. Do you not understand the level of tolerance we need? Like, we can't, when it's a majority one race in a country, they really do not like dealing with minority groups. And this is everywhere. This isn't just the United States. This isn't just China. This is everywhere. Right? Is that they're like, nah, you don't look like us? You want some funky business. Nah, we don't like you. Like, and you're now going to want to start civilizations on other planets when we already have conflicts with each other just because they live in a different fucking rock than us. Like, do you not understand that? Like, we can't even like treat each other equally just because of like different skin colors or where you live or what little part of this rock you live on. And you're gonna sit here and tell me that when we're communicating with a part of our species that actively lives on another atmosphere than us, you're gonna sit here and say that we have the tolerance to deal with that? Are you fucking kidding me? These are the things you have to think about, humanity. You have to think about these kinds of things. You can't just... Oh my God. Oh my God. And not only that, but here's another thing. Here's another thing, right? If war were to happen on a planet that we can't inhabit, but is also like very resource heavy for us, if we start a war on that planet, we will literally be launching trillions, quadrillions, quintillions of dollars of planetary material out into the vacuum of space to where it would cost us more to retrieve it than what it would be worth. In the same way that it would cost us more to retrieve all the gold in the ocean than it would be worth to have that gold. So, and do you not understand the questions that you actually have to begin asking? What is the value of a planet? What is the value of life on another planet? And you guys struggle to actually be faithful on a perspective, on a actual moral perspective on what is the value of another human on another continent, in another country, in another city, right? You struggle with that. And you want to sit here and have billionaires who want to become spacefaring and colonize Mars when they're out here skipping steps and don't even want to begin to think about the ramifications of the decisions they're making? Do you not understand anything? Do you not understand anything? Okay? Not only that, we need nuclear energy to be able to actually be spacefaring. Okay? We need nuclear energy. Alright? We need to begin to actually provide for our planet before we begin to try to think we could colonize other planets. Are you fucking stupid? We cannot be making the same mistakes as what our ancestors made when they colonized the United States. We cannot do that to the rest of space. Bars! Like, could you please just actually understand the implications of what it means to become spacefaring? Because there are a lot of science fiction ideas that if you actually begin to really think about them, you're like, oh fuck, if this is used improperly, we would literally bombard ourselves in a hell that we couldn't even perceive. Because if we could perceive it, that means we're dead. Like, that's terrifying. And we don't even have tolerance for each other because even though, relative to every species on this fucking rock, we are all the way in the fucking clouds. Our species is in the clouds relative to the rest of the food chain. And yet for some reason, for some dumb fucking reason, you want to have your species see how far above the clouds it can go. And you wonder why it's going to hurt so much when you fall from grace. This is why. Your problems are everywhere, humanity. You are a constantly contradictive species, and it is why every single one of the empires that rise and fall will all be the same, because they started from a grudge. Every single empire. Every empire. And here's the thing, even in my conquest of domination, I wouldn't want to conquer the entire world, because entropy is inevitable. And when the only thing to crack is me, guess what? I crack and bleed. It's inevitable, mate. Do you not understand? You cannot afford to be fucking around like this anymore. You can't. Okay? You can't keep fucking around. This is, like, the level of seriousness is, I can't even portray it, dude. How am I supposed to portray planetary severity to anyone? How do you portray that? You actually have to have a lot of talks of what it means to actually own something in the galaxy when everything is moving in a frictionless vacuum. You actually have to discuss that. You actually have to understand boundaries, right? Because I have a question for you, right? What ends up happening if you have boundaries, but you also want to have a dibs option, right? And one of your little asteroids or comets that you call dibs on goes into the territory of another planet, and you try harvesting it there, and that planet is like, hey, yo, you gotta get the fuck out. That's ours, by the way. That's in our territory. And you're like, no, we called dibs. It's like, what do you think is gonna fucking happen there? What do you think is gonna happen? Trillions upon trillions upon trillions, tens, maybe hundreds of trillions of dollars on the fucking line. What do you think is gonna fucking happen there? Are you ready to have these kinds of discussions? Are you ready to have these kinds of debates when you are talking about evaluations this fucking high? Are you actually ready? Because if you're not, please get these billionaire dipshits the fuck out of power immediately. Hey, here's another question for y'all, humanity. Right, if y'all want to go spacefaring, like, how about this? How about this? Can you even perceive of the idea of mass producing housing across the galaxy? Can you please think of that? I bet you fucking can't. But you're just gonna let the billionaires do whatever the fuck. I can't fucking believe y'all. I cannot believe y'all. Y'all are trying to pull off feats of science fiction, but not actually wanting to think about the true ramifications on a societal and species-wide and galactic scale. Like, you actually have to perceive things. You have to look 50,000 years ahead. Because you already know, again, colonizing another planet, that's just an inch. That's just us taking a little inch across the galaxy. We're gonna take a mile and then see that there are thousands of other miles to take, and we're gonna take every single mile, every single centimeter of those galactic miles. And if we don't get our fucking shit together and actually understand what it means to colonize the fucking solar system, let alone the goddamn galaxy, like, the calamity is going to be terrifying. Like, you can't even perceive it. Like, here's another thing you have to actually question. Here's another thing. Can your religion accept us colonizing other planets? Can your religion accept us evolving differently on those planets? Can your religion accept the idea that if we pull this off properly, our doctrines will be created into religions that get spread across other planets? Like, can your religion accept that? Can you accept that? Like, and do you understand, like, the responsibility that comes with making godly level decisions that will span and dictate across 50,000 years? Do you understand the ramifications of that? Every single word, every single period, everything has to be so clearly stated, so clearly made, so that stability could happen for 50,000 fucking years. And that people maintain that stability. Like, can your religion accept that? Can you accept that? Because I don't think you can. I don't think that you can accept the idea that your actions will become the religion of our spacefared descendants. Like, do you not understand that? Like, this is what I mean. Like, and maybe it's just because I'm actually aware of the God complex that I have. So I actually think about, wait a minute, if I were to actually have that power, what are the ramifications of my worst intentions and my worst emotions being put at the most extreme levels? What are the ramifications of those actions that will happen? Just how far will that destruction go? And if you don't begin to actually think about the responsibility of the decisions you will have to make here, you will bring a calamity that, again, you will not be able to perceive. You won't. Holy shit. But I don't think y'all are going to be able to handle it. Oh, and just one more thing. If you think comets, asteroids, moons, planets were a problem, imagine what happens when we have Dyson spheres. Do you have any idea the kind of calamity that we could bring to life on other planets by shutting out their stars for another planet's energy? Can we please just ask these questions? Can we ask these questions? What does it mean to have this level of godly power? What does it actually mean for our species? What does it mean for our belief system in what we are, what we can do, what we are, what we actually mean? What is that? Like, do you not understand the amount of things we have to fucking ask before we can just jump to fucking colonizing on the goddamn planets? Jesus fucking Christ. We have to actually think about the ramifications of what we're doing. Because let's say for this, like, let's say we harvest a moon, right? And then later on we find out through our advancing of terraforming technology that planet could have actually have been a stable place to go to for humanity to expand to, but since we, like, literally craterized its fucking moon, now all the fucking systems are all fucked up, and it's kind of unstable and a risky place to start putting humanity on. Do you understand the amount of things you actually have to think about? If you are legitimately trying to actually progress to this, you need to actually think about this realistically. You can't just go and do whatever the fuck you want. Holy shit. And by the way, if you're wondering, no, this is not scripted. I'm not reading a script. I'm just fucking ranting. This is just me ranting. Do you not understand how long I have actually thought about this idea? I have thought about this way too much. If this is going to be a step that humanity wants to take, y'all need to get your fucking shit together. It's not about peace. It's about tolerating each other. And if you can't tolerate each other, the very wars that are happening on this planet are going to spread around the solar system and potentially the fucking galaxy if we don't collapse ourselves in the solar system. Do you not understand just how serious this kind of shit is? Okay? When you have the most powerful and wealthiest people throwing out these pipe dream delusions, you need to actually start taking them seriously and start questioning just how far ahead they are really thinking. Jesus Christ, I get it, it's hard to think, but many of us, for some reason, many of y'all, are not thinking. So, many of the ones that do think are gonna have to think for the ones that don't. We are in a very terrifyingly apathetic stage of our species because we are at a crossroads and we are realizing that the asymptote of our technology expanding is now getting closer and closer and closer, and if we don't figure it out, we might just collapse our fucking societies. So we gotta figure this shit out, guys. We gotta figure this shit out. Oh, and here's another thing that I mentioned earlier, right? What is the cost of life? Like, if we go out to other planets and, like, let's say we find a planet that has water and we figure out that there is life in that water, how do we look at that? What is the protocol? How do we treat that life so that we don't abuse it like the life on this planet? How do we make sure that our mistakes do not spread across the fucking galaxy? How do we make sure of that? Do we even know the protocol? Have we even thought of the protocol? When dealing with alien life, especially if we're going to be trying to use said alien life for our benefit, we gotta be willing to understand the actual costs of that life. Like, for instance, if we find out that, like, some, like, alien fish has, like, some enzyme in its system that can, like, cure a disease or, like, help us figure out how to, like, modify our DNA, how do we be able to harvest that without killing our lifeline? Do you even can you even begin to actually weigh these kinds of discussions out? The cost of life is serious. And if you're not going to actually put a worthwhile price tag on it, where we actually lose a bunch of progress and research for killing off life, we are going to abuse every bit of life that we run across. And heaven fucking forbid, if an alien species that has been going out of its way to not have contact with us makes contact with us, we are going to start a war that I guarantee we cannot win. Please think about this kind of stuff if you're going to be believing the pipe dreams of these fucking billionaires. Here's another fucking thing, because this is just the gift that keeps on giving, right? You do understand that if we become spacefaring and we colonize the fucking galaxy, you do understand that the frictionless vacuum of space is now our highway. Can you please perceive the godly level responsibility we have when the vacuum of space is nothing more than a highway for our species? Can I tell you another thing? Here's another thing, because I just can't stop thinking about this. It's almost like I had contact with aliens and they told me shit, right? But here's just another quandary you have to think about. So, humanity is a very emotional species, right? Humanity, it loves its emotions, it loves its expression, right? Well, what ends up happening if we don't figure out how to deal with the 8 billion of us and we start literally populating and reproducing in the quintillions? Do you understand how many perspectives we have to deal with? Do you understand how many problems we have to figure out in our current stage of humanity? Alright? Do you understand how many things we have to update and take seriously because members of our species will experience different conditions on one planet than others? Like, do you not understand just how much together we have to be? This is not a joke, mate. This is like actual serious shit. Like, we can't just fuck around with these kinds of ideas and then just commit to them like there are no actual consequences. Like, it's like, oh, we're just gonna go colonize Mars, everything's gonna be fine. No. Use your fucking heads. These are insane feats for any species. And we are advising ourselves to take these steps. It's like, what are you fucking doing? Like, we gotta figure out our problems here first. And we can't be having autistic, dipshit, delusional dumb fucks being the ones that actually run the show. We actually have to figure out how to not spread these issues. Holy shit. Like, seriously, like, we can't even deal with transgenders, dude. How are we supposed to deal with issues of a part of our species that is like 3 solar systems away from us in the galaxy? How are we supposed to take those problems seriously? We can't even take exceptions to what we understand to be humanity and nature. Like, we can't even accept those things. We go to war and prosecute and and violate each other just for trying to understand those things, and yet you think that we're going to be able to understand each other when we are separate on different planets and have to endure different conditions? Are you out of your fucking mind? This is what I mean. Is your religion actually able to set aside its beliefs and its understanding of how we interact with everything? Is your religion able to accept the idea that once we take this step, God definitively is not above the galaxy? Do you understand just how serious that is for y'all? Here's something. I keep asking you, humanity, are you ready? Are you ready? And you're probably sitting there being like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm not asking you if you're motivated. All right? You might be motivated to want to take these steps. All right? But you could be motivated. How about the rest of your species? When you look at the rest of your species, do you think that a sample size that your species currently is on this blue marble rock, are you going to say that that would be able to handle the vastness of colonization of the galaxy? This is the greatest expansion in the life of the galaxy. Please think about these things if you actually want to believe that they're possible, because if you don't, the terrifying reality will set in when it's too late. Okay? We are trekking in new territory, and now we need to think about how to handle ourselves in it. Because if we just jump right in it and just take whatever problems whenever they pop up, and we don't actually predict what kinds of problems we can run into, oh my God, the wars are going to be so wasteful. Imagine quintillions of dollars of planetary debris just shooting out into the vacuum of space. Oh, and let's actually talk about that, right? Because that we could already conclude would literally be the detonation of 5,000 years of progress for our species. So, but let's actually think about that. So, a part of a planet that we were warring over, right, has a bunch of its material shot out into the vacuum of space. Eventually, those pieces line up in a different territory. So now, the very pieces of planet that you were harvesting, that you were calling dibs on, are now in someone else's, in another part of our species' territory. Again, these kinds of debates and policies you have to discuss if you're wanting to go spacefaring, so that we could have some level of stability for about 50,000 fucking years before our egos take over again. Get it the fuck together and think about these things, you fucking nimrods. Oh, and here's just another fucking idea, right? Do you understand the idea that if we manage to do this, we are the sole gods of life of our galaxy, and that we have an obligation to maintain life, and not ourselves, life itself? Do you understand the responsibility that comes with that? We literally have to be gods. We can't just invade planets and do whatever the fuck we want. We have God level power in this hypothetical of spacefaring. Are we really willing to be able to monitor what will be the dinosaurs that we create for all of our galaxy, across our galaxy? are we really able to actually monitor that for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years? Are we really willing to be able to do that? Do we have that level of patience and tolerance to be able to pull something like that off? It is not ambition that we need to look for. It is stability. It is diligence. It is the capability of seeing consequences for actions and understanding that if the small issues that crop up through our major wars were to spread around, those smaller issues would cause galactic warfare. Because they won't be small issues anymore. They will be macro issues. When you get to the point to where planets look like mere cities, look like mere houses, you gotta understand the kind of perspective you have there. The understanding that, like, oh fuck, this is how much we control. Like, are you truly ready? Truly ready, not motivated, ready to actually have these kinds of conversations? Because I don't think you are. I really don't. Oh my God. Here's another fucking question, humanity. Here's another great question, right? And this goes on about, like, you know, the whole idea of, like, y'all can't accept transgenderism, but you want to sit here and say that you could accept your own species, like separate parts of your species that are living in other atmospheres, right? Y'all want to sit here and say that. Okay, so what ends up happening if members of our species wind up evolving differently? What if they evolve with and become hermaphrodites? What if they evolve and they just look entirely different than what you imagine to be humanity, right? Like, these are the things that I'm talking about. Like, like transgenderism and accepting gays and blacks, these are just the tests of if we are even able to achieve this idea of galactic scaled stability for our species. And, like, seriously, like, what ends up happening when like, let's say a certain part of our species is, like, really lanky, right? They're really lanky looking, right? And they got weird faces, right? And their hair is weird. It has evolved in a very weird way. It's not like human hair. What ends up happening when later on that possibility, or sorry, that inevitability by taking these steps means that when they have a problem, you still need to look at them like a human. You need to help them. That's your species. That's you. You can't just leave that out to die, especially when the problems are planetary. You can't just let an entire planet of your species die because you view it to be a fucking nuisance to take care of that problem. You have to give a shit. This is what I mean. I don't care about world peace. I care about the tolerance for us to be able to even pull something like this off. To even be able to have the idea that we could rely on our species across the fucking galaxy to help us here when we are in trouble. And if we can't even have the tolerance to have the trust and reliability on our species to do that, what makes you think we won't go to war? What makes you think that we won't destroy ourselves and destroy numerous planets and leave this galaxy a hole that used to be our existence? Again, think about these kinds of things. Oh, and here's another reason why tolerance, world tolerance, is needed if this venture is going to be possible. what ends up happening when there is an object that hits a planet from the direction of another territory? Do we really have the tolerance to be able to think, wait, maybe it passed from that direction? Maybe it wasn't actually launched from our species that direction. Maybe this is just an object that's floating in the vacuum of space at super fast speeds. Like, again, please understand just how serious these things are. Because if we go trigger happy when it comes to galactic civilization, the consequences are literally cataclysmic. The amount of lives that will be lost, the amount of life and the amount of species that we will have put into this galaxy that isn't just us will be wasted. This is a God-level endeavor. And there are thousands upon thousands of questions that you need to ask when it comes to beliefs, when it comes to just objects moving around in the vacuum of space, when it comes to actually like harvesting objects, and what happens when you harvest an object, and in midst harvesting it goes into the territory of another part of your species. Like, because you have to think about, like, what happens if a disease crops up on one planet and you go over to another planet? Would they also be hurt just as much? Would they be immune? Would they like take such a catastrophic hit that it might as well be the death of a subspecies of our species? Are you ready to accept subspecies as a part of our species? How many questions do you think there are in an endeavor like this? This is the greatest colonization venture in the history of life in this galaxy. Mars is just one step. That's just one destination. That's not the end, and you know it. The galaxy is where is our technical goal, right? You don't just make technology to colonize a planet. You make technologies to control entire parts of a galaxy. It would be wasteful to only limit yourself to one planet when you know if you can do it once, and you literally, if life could produce you once and you can colonize another planet once, you should be able to take life and reproduce life on other planets twice and be able to also take humanity to other planets twice. It would be wasteful of our resources and our education and our advancement to think that we could only do it once. No. So you have to start thinking about these things on a galactic scale. Okay? A problem that would take out 1% of an economy could wind up taking out entire planets when you consider them all linked to like one established economy. You have to consider the idea of what happens when a planet that we find is so resource heavy that it becomes a resource variant of the United States, and you have entire planets investing into that one planet to stay stable and to get resources to their planet as well. Do you not understand the kind of mentality we have to have here? The solutions to world tolerance will be the solutions and the methods we have to use when it comes to actually harvesting celestial bodies and taking us beyond the stars. Think about it, humanity. So, the final questions lie and are all rooted in, are you willing to accept the very potential belief that there is no God and that we are gods? Are you willing to actually accept that? Is that a belief system that you are willing to accept, and a belief system that you can tune to make sure that that godly thought process doesn't lead to hateful, malicious, and malignant action, but prosperous, generous, and life-giving actions? Do you think you can do that? These, like, humanity, are you truly willing to take the mantle of gods? Are you really willing to take that mantle? Are you ready? Actually ready, not motivated. Not motivated. I don't want that motivated crap. I mean ready. Are you genuinely ready to take the mantle of gods? With all the addictions, all the vices, all the problems, all the scams, all the lying that we could all do and produce, are you willing to put away those urges and tendencies to benefit your species and to be able to understand yourselves, your positioning in this universe on a much wider scale? The question falls on you. And unfortunately, if you say no, you can't just let it go. You have to accept that this is a debate that needs to be started earlier rather than later. So you need to figure out why not. What are the things that we need to fix? Because the large problems are going to hold us back. The smaller problems are going to start wars on a galactic scale. We got to start thinking like gods. Because that's what we are trying to become.